Introduction to psychology. The subject psychology is becoming more and more popular day by day. The number of colleges and students opting for the study of this subject at the graduate and postgraduate levels is yearly increasing in almost all the universities of our country. Psychology is an offspring of the subject philosophy. With the passage of time, the subject psychology has undergone a change from one of the sheer speculation to that of scientific perceiver. The gradual divergence of this subject from philosophy to science has been responsible for the change in its meaning and concept from time to time, as may be evident from the following discussion. Defining psychology. 1. In terms of the study of the soul. In order to define the subject psychology, let us first trace its origin. It came from the most mysterious and philosophical concept, the soul. Etymologically, the very word psychology means the study of the soul on account of its derivation from two Greek words. Psyche means soul, and logos means a rational course or a study. 2. In terms of the study of mind. What is soul? How can it be studied? The inability to answer such questions led some ancient Greek philosophers to define psychology as study of the mind. Although the word mind was less mysterious and vague than soul, it also faced the same questions such as what is mind? How can it be studied? And more, and consequently this definition was also rejected. 3. In terms of the study of consciousness. Failure to define the terms soul and mind persuaded the philosophers and psychologists to search for some other suitable definitions. William Wundt (1832–1920), who established the first psychology laboratory at the University of Leipzig in Germany, and his disciple Edward Bradford Titchener also concluded to define psychology as the science of consciousness. According to these psychologists, the description and explanation of the states of consciousness is the task of psychology, which is usually done by the instrument introspection process of looking within. This definition was also rejected on the grounds that 1. It has a very narrow vision on account of its not talking about subconscious and unconscious activities of the mind. 2. The introspection method for the study of conscious activities of the mind proved the most subjective and unscientific method, and 3. It could not include the study of the consciousness of animals. 4. In terms of the study of behavior. From the 19th century onwards, with the advent of the modern era of scientific investigation and thought, psychology began to be defined in terms of the study of behavior. The first man to define psychology as the science of behavior was an English psychologist, William McDougall. In his book Physiological Psychology, published in 1905, he wrote, "Psychology may be best and most comprehensively defined as the positive science of the conduct of living creatures." Later, in 1908, in his book Introduction and Social Psychology, he added the word behavior to his definition, and finally in his book An Outline of Psychology, gave the following meaningful definition. Psychology is a science which aims to give us better understanding and control of the behavior of the organism as a whole. 1949, page 38. In the same period, an American professor, Walter Bowers Pillsbury, in his book Essentials of Psychology, published in 1911, gave the same behavioral definition of the term psychology in the words, "Psychology may be most satisfactorily defined as the science of human behavior." However, in the later years, in 1913, Baby Watson, the father of the behaviorist school, proposed to elaborate the concept of the term behavior, including in it both human and animal behavior, and consequently, he defined psychology as the science of behavior, taking into account the human as well as animal behavior. Taking cues from the earlier works, contemporary psychologists and various other writers have explained and defined psychology as science of behavior using a somewhat different vocabulary as follows. N. L. Munn says psychology is a science, and the properly trained psychologist is a scientist, or at least a practitioner, who uses scientific methods and information resulting from scientific investigation. 1967, p. 4. Similarly, Desiderato, Howison and Jackson write psychology can be broadly defined as the investigation of human and animal behavior, and of the mental and physiological processes associated with the behavior. 1976, p. 5. Conclusion regarding definitions. The above account of the definitions regarding the subject psychology clearly reveals that the meaning and concept of this subject has frequently changed its shape based on its dependence upon philosophical or scientific thinking. Commenting over this aspect, Wordsworth 1948 says, "First psychology lost its soul, then mind, then it lost its consequences. It still has behavior of sort." Although even at this final stage, there seems no agreement over universal definition of psychology, yet the definitions may generally be viewed to center around a common pivot of behavior. Consequently, it may be concluded that psychology is a science of behavior, or scientific study of behavioral activities and experiences. The questions which remain unanswered at this stage are: 1. What do we actually mean by the term behavior? 2. What is the nature of the subject psychology? Is it a science? If yes, then what kind of science is it?